Soulwind TV presents.
So welcome to Bullseye Nuclear. We are a podcast with Empowered to Change International, where we empower the broken to heal, the voiceless to speak, and communities to come together. And what we're doing during this series of our podcast, we are featuring addiction in families. And tonight we have such a special featuring guests for you, and it is not one, not two, but three Kramer sisters. And I just know that everyone watching or listening out there, you're going to be blessed. You're going to have hope, because if you have family that are in addiction, or maybe multiple family members in addiction, and you think there's just no way out, and that it's just carrying on to generation, I want you to especially tune in today, because you will have hope and you will have some excitement that there are people out there that have suffered greatly, and they are free and walking their healing journey. Mm-hmm. So I want to turn it over to the Kramer sisters. Michelle Kramer is right here in the center. And really, Michelle, thank you for joining us. Victoria and Nicole. Virginia. Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, Virginia. I'm sorry. I told them at the beginning that I might mess up names. It's just what's happening. So, but seriously, thank you guys for being here. I'm completely honored to be a part of this and to have a front row seat, really. Yeah. Into your story. So, Michelle, if you could just kind of start wherever you want to start. This is your, all of you, this is your moments to put a voice to some of the experiences that you guys have had. Yeah. And just really, there's no holds barred, right? There's nothing that you can't say, and just take it away, Michelle Kramer.
All right, my name's Michelle. These are my two wonderful sisters. This is honestly the first time since we were not even teens, younger than teens, that we have all three been clean and sober.
Wow.
I personally started drinking at the age of 11. I think we all did, smoking weed. Our dad was a single dad. He raised all three of us, but our father was an alcoholic for many, many years. There was a time in our life where we knew all the bar's phone numbers, like by heart.
Wow.
And then he started smoking crack cocaine at one point. It was toxic. There was violence. It was lonely and scared, so we went to the streets and found what we thought were friends and family there, you know. I started stripping at 15.
Okay.
Got a fake ID in her name. You didn't have to have paperwork back then. So I got into that nightlife really fast and at a young age. Nicole was the first one to go to prison. I can't say to jail because I went to jail at 17, but on her first go around, she got 10 years. 8 years. Sorry. And it was crazy. It was sad. I was very sad for her. We were all we had.
So if I can just kind of step in every now and then, and Nicole, please jump in when she's mentioning that, if you have some things that you want to highlight of what you went through, because really addiction affects everybody in the family, but it's not the exact same, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Right. While your dad was elevating his alcoholism into substance abuse, okay, and the violence that you guys were enduring, Was it one of you? Was it all of you? Did you guys decide that you were going to leave together? It was just one at a time.
I left first.
You left first. Now, who's the oldest
Me.
here? You're
Mhm.
the oldest. And you said, I'm out.
Yeah, I moved in with my kid's father.
Okay.
Well, we didn't have kids yet, but we're married now, 28 years later. But
Wow, that's awesome.
but yeah, I left first, and then at some point, they kind of lived with me for a little while. Both of them ended up moving out probably about, 15, 16, both of them. And they
Okay.
lived with me and my boyfriend at the time for a while. Then, of course, got a boyfriend, moved out, got a boyfriend, moved out.
All the while in addiction in
Yeah,
various forms.
yeah.
Okay.
And then me and my boyfriend, we broke up. Well, he was my kid's father. We broke up, and I kind of lost it when they took my children. And I went on a drug binge for a very long time. 1999, I was drunk and high on Xanax, and I got hit by a car. I was walking. The car was going 55 miles an hour. They said the only reason that I lived was because I was drunk. Had I not, because your body's so limber.
Right.
So, but I ended up in the hospital for about a month, and that's where I became addicted to opiates. And that was
And this was before prison, right?
right before prison. Yeah, 2 years before prison.
Okay.
And I got strung out, IV user, after I left the hospital, because all my friends were a lot older than I were, so they were already doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2001, I met this girl. Well, I had known her for quite some years before, but her and I actually hooked up as girlfriends. And I didn't know the kind of lifestyle she was living as far as what she was doing. And I ended up getting 8 years in prison for 2 counts of home invasion, robbery, and a grand theft auto
With this other.
with the other female. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Would you say, Nicole, that was it stemmed from your drug use? It
all
was
from my
drug
use.
related.
Yes.
Okay.
It was all from my drug use. I mean, there was times I was getting high with my dad and everything. Like it was pretty insane for
Yeah.
quite some years. And then, I went to prison. I was gone like 6 years and 10 months off of 8. And I got out. I was living with my uncle in Valrico for, I don't know, about 5 months. I couldn't find no work with the record like that. So I figured, well, I'm going to come back over here. And I did. And that was when the pill epidemic was still going on, and I had been locked up for the beginning of that. And went immediately, well, not immediately, I'd say probably about 4 or 5 months after being back over here, went to the doctors, knew I could get a script, no problem. And boom, there was that 7 years down the drain, basically.
Okay.
I mean, I got high in prison too, so you can do the same thing in there. It's just as bad in there.
Which
as
will
it
be
is.
a different series if you
Yeah.
want to come
Right,
back,
right.
because we want to talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
life in prison
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
of that. But
Oh.
so you did 7 years
The
and-
first time.
The first time.
Right.
Okay. And when you got out, so you were still in addiction when you got out, or
No,
or
I had actually stopped using in '04, and I got out in '08. I actually even quit smoking. I'll tell you,
Okay.
I got really close with God my last 2-3 years. I got out in August of '08, and in May of '08, I had prayed about quitting smoking cigarettes. I put everything down, gave all my cigarettes, lighters, everything away. I quit smoking for 8 years, and for
Wow.
some reason, well, I know why. In 16, I picked back up, but yeah, I mean, I got really close to the higher power when I was in there. And I mean, life happens. And
It
I got
does.
out. Both of my sisters were still in addiction really bad. And I love them to death. And we all lived together at the time when I moved back over here. And, when you start hanging out with it.
I was gonna say, did
Yeah.
any of them pull you back in?
I would say kind of.
Not. I mean, listen, we're
Not-
talking
not,
about
Not, I mean, just being around
just
it.
being
yeah.
around
Just
it
being
pulled
around
you
it, yeah.
back in.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it. Yeah, they didn't like twist my arm or anything. You know what I mean? I'm a whole drug addict on my own.
Right.
So, but being around it, yes, definitely. It was,
Okay.
but I had really nowhere else to go. My
Mm-hmm.
dad, I don't even know where Dad was living at the time. I don't think he had a place that I could stay at. So I was living with them, with a older guy who was like our grandpa, and helping take care of him. So, I mean.
Okay.
I was there and started going to the doctors. They were giving you plenty of pills back then. So,
Right.
I mean, and it was just insanity. And it didn't stop until I think I went to prison the second time again. I went back to prison in 2000, and I got arrested in 12, got out in 13, I think.
Yep.
Yes. And I did 17 months that time, all because of my addiction.
Okay.
Every single
Every
time.
time.
Every
Yeah.
single time. I literally just did a year county. But, okay, so after the second time, got
Yes.
out, started doing the same things again.
Okay.
Same people. Went back a third time on a possession charge. And I did, I think, 11 months. In that time, I got arrested in, I would say, November. In February of that year, I got shipped to prison. April of that year, my dad, so it was in 14 and 15. In 15, I got a call from my dad. I was trying to get a hold of him. And in prison, it's different to be able to contact somebody. So when I got a call from the chaplain, I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
So they called me down there, and they told me that it was him. It was him and his sister. And they were like, listen, they found out that he had stage 4 lung cancer. And at the time, they had this, I can't remember the program, but they had like a faith-based program on the reception center.
Okay.
And I was going to this class every day that they would have it for us. And so, again, I was building my relationship with God again. And so they called me down there, and he's like, baby girl, I'm going to be here when you get out. I was sentenced to Teen Challenge.
Okay.
I was supposed to go there when I got out, but he was supposed to pay for 6 months of this program and everything else. So I get the phone call on his birthday, April 15, 2015. And then they transfer me from there to Lowell Correctional. And 6 weeks to the day, they called me down to the captain's office, 6:30 in the morning. He had passed away.
Yeah.
And he's like, baby girl, I'm going to be here when you get out. Don't worry about it. You know
So
what I mean?
that
Like,
must have hit you.
it hit hard.
Right.
It hit hard. But it's really crazy because the day before they called me, I had literally wrote on my shower sides Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning they called me down there and told me this. I actually, I don't know if you remember Chelsea, that she used to work for you guys this is back in like 16 probably.
Okay.
But anyways, she was a bunkmate across from me before I came here to this program at
Okay.
16. And I used to minister to her the Bible. She used to come to me. I had a study Bible. So if I didn't know I'm going to look, we're going to look.
Right, right.
So then I got out, and I moved in with my goddad at my dad's place. And I stayed there for a little while. I stayed clean for a little while. A year to the next, I went and I seen my sister. She was bad. She was doing so bad.
So and you were not, right? So
Right.
you were clean at this point.
I think I may have been smoking a little weed or something, but I wasn't back to where I
hard
was, the
Right.
hard stuff where I used to be.
So I want to jump in a little bit. So you look amazing,
Thanks.
I just want to say. And you have been clean for how long now?
Next month will be a year.
That's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. So if I could jump around just a little bit, when your dad passed, where were you, Michelle?
Well,
Like
I was-
somehow step in here. And I also want to go back to when you were 15. Like you didn't just aspire to go work at a strip club.
No.
And I do want to go back
back to
and
that.
to hear,
Okay.
how is that possible
Yeah.
when that's, illegal.
Right.
But so you take it where you want to go, and
Well, I
then
can
we'll
do
jump
the
around a
stripping
little bit.
thing real quick. My oldest son's father was 5 years older than me.
Okay.
Everybody I hung out with was 5 years older than me. Everybody. There was
Okay.
nobody my age except for the females, honestly. All the
Okay.
girls were younger, the men were older. Like I said, back then, you could go into the DMV and say, you're such and such.
Mm-hmm.
We have the same eyes, same hair color,
Right.
same height,
Right.
same weight. And
There
all
you
those
are.
things lined up, and now I'm 18 at 15.
Okay.
So, honestly, we used to go hang out at the strip clubs, and then I was like,
Easy
this
money.
looks really easy.
Yeah.
And it was really easy. I will say the strip clubs were a lot different than they are now.
Okay.
Like
How so?
night and day. Like back then, you could literally just sit and have a conversation with somebody and you made money. When I went back a couple years back, it was so many drugs in the strip club. Girls were doing a lot of nasty things for nothing. It was a lot scarier. There was girls that had pimps in there. Like it was just a totally different world. And I danced 2 nights and I was like, I can't. This is way different than what I was used to. Because even I was young, so I didn't do anything illegal at that point yet when I was younger stripping.
Other than the actual
just
being there.
being underage.
Right.
I did go to jail at 17.
Okay.
And at at the club, and the owner bonded everybody out, but me. I was like, excuse me, why am I not out? And they're like, well, Miss Nicole Kramer, you have a warrant. I was like, okay, well, I'm 17. Can you call my dad?
Right.
So my dad had to come pick me up. You know, I had my own place and everything then. So it really, my dad knew what I was doing.
So this is a life, ladies, that you guys grew up in this atmosphere. That was the norm to you guys.
Normal.
And part of what we're going to break this down into so many parts, okay? Because you guys might hear part 1, but we're going to break it down into several because there's so much here.
So much.
Because we also aim here at Empowered to Change. We want to change what the stereotype is.
Yes.
The face of somebody, quote, I don't even like the term, but an addict.
Right.
The stereotypical face of an addict or a felon, if you will, and also give some understanding and give some knowledge to people that, if you've lived a life in a home of some semblance of order, right? I mean, I grew up in a dysfunctional home, but my dysfunction is completely different.
Right.
Okay. And I could probably fake it a little better because of my dysfunction.
Right.
But what you guys endured was completely normal. And this is what the outcome naturally was. Is that
Literally,
fair?
like in all of our friends' households.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. So it wasn't like this friend over here and this friend over here had
right.
like both parents and one of them wasn't. It was all of our friends. There was one parent and they were drugs and drinking and like our parents all hung out and like
So
it just was what it was.
What happened to your mom?
So she's alive. Just recently.
She's still out there?
So no, she was never out there.
Oh, she was never out there.
She just dropped us. My dad was abusive, like I said.
Okay.
And she left us.
When you were young?
5, 3, and 2. So that happened. I just recently forgave her. That was a whole spiritual thing. I was on a 21-day fast, and I want answers, but God told me, no, you forgive her and help her heal. So that was a whole nother experience. Wow. I was like, what? Like, it was. But I do want to clarify, my dad was on drugs and he was drinking and he was at a time abusive, but my dad did turn his life around and he did go to recovery. I even went to an NA dance with him once.
That's
my
awesome.
dad did get clean and he was like my best friend before. He was
there. He was there.
Always there. He had the same job for 25 years. He was a functioning addict, you know. He was always, every court hearing, he was always there. All 3 prison sentences, all 3 of us, many times, 3 times, 2 times, 1 time. He was always there.
Okay.
In his addiction, he was always there. And
so when let's go from after the strip club.
Okay.
Kind of walk us through some of the decline that addiction took you down, the paths that it took you down.
When I was drinking, acid and ecstasy were the thing.
Okay.
Cocaine came in. And then I stopped. I got pregnant. Wasn't doing anything. I didn't even know what addiction was, honestly, when I was 19. I didn't know it was even a thing. I just thought I drink, I do coke. That's
What's
what
the
it
big
is,
deal?
right?
Mhm.
I didn't even know the word addiction.
Mhm.
So I had my first kid at 20. Um, Me and his father were together for 8 years. It was abusive, mentally and physically towards one another. And so I just left. I couldn't do it. Unfortunately, I did the same thing my mom did to us, even though I always said, I don't want to be like her. I will never do that. It's literally, it's a, it's that generational
It's a
curse.
generational thing.
It literally happened. I left my son, unfortunately. Um, Heavy drinking, met my second son's father, um, had another kid, and I was using, and he got taken, and not taken, but DCF came in, and grandma let us all move in with her, and we were doing a case plan. 3 months after I had him, I went in for gallbladder surgery, and that was the first time I found out what opiates were. And they literally just pumped them in me. I was hallucinating, didn't even realize what was happening.
So both of you got addicted to opiates from an accidental medical issue.
Yeah. Well, I
And
had
the
3
hospitals.
surgeries back to back within a couple months.
Okay.
And literally it was just when I had my endometriosis surgery after my gallbladder, they punctured my appendix, but sent me home. And I kept telling them something's wrong with me, something's wrong with me. And they just kept giving me more pain pills. And it was bad.
And give me like the year of that. What year
That
was
was in
that?
2005 or 6,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Okay.
And so they just kept giving me more pain pills, stronger ones, more stronger ones. And then the pill mills came around, and that till when I like didn't have any and I got dope sick for the first time, I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I felt like I had the flu times 10, and I didn't even know what dope sick was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so easy for me to walk into a doctor's office with somebody else's pill bottle with the label, her name ripped off, and get prescribed 310 Roxys and Oxycontin and Xanax and like just like that.
Right.
It was insane.
Would you say that it's harder now
Oh yeah.
to get that? Because
I mean, I think
thankfully the state of
thank
Florida cracked
God.
down on it.
Thank God.
Okay.
Like, because it was so bad.
Yes.
You could, if you were doctor shopping, you could go to Walgreens and go to another doctor and go to CVS, and they did not communicate.
So is
Now they all
that
communicate with each
right?
other.
Right. Thank God
Yes.
for technology
Yes.
and that form.
Mhm.
Is that why you went to prison the first time?
First time I went to prison for selling pills.
Okay.
And then the second time was for introduction to contraband to a state facility.
Okay.
My dad passed away. So I was pregnant with my then 4th child. When my dad was, passing away on us, I was on the methadone clinic. I looked so terrible. I see pictures of me now and I'm like, who was that? So my dad died on May 14th, 2015. And on the 20th, I gave birth to my daughter, Amelia. And I had her a month early due to stress. And I caught a petty theft charge, and I was sentenced to 6 months, and I was on methadone, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a bad detox. So I took 60 Xanax in with me and got caught with 3 left.
Oh,
so
okay.
then I got a 13-month sentence when I was
For
really
that.
going to do 4.
Yeah.
But that was when I got my relationship with God. I did prison the first time, and I was out of control, doing the drugs, run around compound, watching my friends back so they can sleep with officers. Like, it was insane.
Right. I can't wait to talk about
Whole
the
nother-
prison
a
issue.
whole nother
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this different. This actually what happened was I was in RNO, which is when you first get, that's what it is, receiving an orientation. And a girl asked me to go to church with her because like you get stuck in dorm all day and night with nothing at first because you don't have a job or nothing. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll go. So we went, and you know, I was sitting there like this, and I was judging everybody. They're raising their hands and singing. I'm like, this is so fake.
Right.
Literally judging everyone.
Yeah.
And so we went back to the dorm the next day, count time. After count, I go over to her, and she looked really bothered. So I was like, are you okay? And she's like, no, I have really bad night terrors from, you know, my time on the street. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was like, can I do anything to help? She's like, go to church with me tonight. I was like, oh, dang it. Okay. Only because I offered, you know. When we went to church that night, we were sitting, she was on the alley seat. I was right next to her. Again, I'm sitting there judging everybody.
In prison.
In prison. And the volunteers for the church, the lady came down the aisle, grabbed my friend, pulled her out, and said, the Holy Spirit told me to come over here and pray for you for your night terrors. And I was like, hey, excuse me, what?
So she didn't know. Nobody
No, how
told
would
her.
she?
Right.
She wasn't somebody in prison.
Yes.
This was a church coming into the prison to do church.
Okay.
So I was like, she has no idea. Like, this is insane. Now I need to know more. So
Right.
then I was like, I'm all in. I started going to all the churches because I was
Now I
like,
need to know
what
more.
is going on with this? And it was the first time I ever read the Bible. And I went through a lot. I went to inner healing classes. I went to church. And this is, I did an inner healing class. And that's when I forgave my mom the first time. That's why when last year I was like, I want answers. I want answers. The Holy Spirit's like, no, you already forgave her. Now you help her heal.
Okay.
So that's
good.
how that happened. But yeah, when my dad died though, we were both there. It was rough. It was sad. We've also lost a sister to addiction in 2012.
Okay.
And when my dad took his last breath, the last thing he said was, okay, Pauline, I'm ready to go. And that's my sister that passed away. And he closed his eyes and he went. And so like that was nice. So I knew she was there to take him up there. So that was really good for me. But then I went to prison, and then she was left out here by herself.
So both of you were in prison at the same time,
Yeah.
but not the same
Like we
prison?
would all literally, we were in prison one time.
4 days after she
Literally, we would go and pass each other
Okay,
nonstop.
so when your dad died, you guys you both were in prison and you were out. So let's hear from you.
I've kind of always been by myself because me and her
Yeah.
always hung out together. And when she went to prison, I was like, I lost my mom and my best friend because she was more my mom than her mom was.
So are you the youngest?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're the
from our
same age
dad.
right now.
I got it. But younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But no, when I went to prison, I don't remember. It's been so long.
2007.
Yep. See, it's been so
I
long.
went up there. And
So
she
were
was
you
there.
were you a teenager when you started doing
Oh,
the
yeah,
same
I
things?
started smoking weed at 11. And
Okay, and I
drinking.
just gotta say this, y'all. People say, "Oh, weed is not a gateway." Do you guys agree or disagree? I'm just
I
I'm
think
just
it was
asking.
Then
yeah, but
now I feel like weed is like, I don't think it's bad.
Okay.
I don't.
To me-
I feel like it's.
I feel
don't
like
know.
it helps people
I think
more.
alcoholic is way worse. than
Right.
weed.
You think
Alcohol is
alcohol is
worse.
way worse. Okay.
100%.
Just a little side survey
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
All right. So, but all of you started smoking weed at 11 and drinking.
Yeah,
Our dad did it.
smoked
We
weed
got it
and
from
drank
our
it,
dad. I
so-
took it
Same
from my dad
time.
all the
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I didn't have
So-
to go very far for it.
All right.
He didn't like that so much, but
So, how old were you when you went to prison first? When you
it was after that I had my son at 19.
okay.
It was
Yeah.
4 years later. It was after I had the
23.
state took my son, so I was 23.
Okay.
Yeah, and I went to prison for selling my prescription medication because actually I started going to the doctors. It was a family doctor that my son was going to, my oldest son was going to, and I started going to it. And I tell you, this doctor, because I had Medicaid, because I had a kid,
Mm-hmm.
I left this doctor's office with 12 different prescription medications.
Literally.
I had a purse that was like this that was filled with nothing.
You don't
but
have to say
prescription
his
bottles.
name or her name, but did they
He's
end up
not-
going to prison?
No, he actually. I drove by there and
I think
they're not even there
one of-
anymore.
At least 2
Yeah.
doctors that we went
Yeah.
to. Or
Okay.
that definitely did go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we won't
But-
go there. We won't go
They
there.
deserved it. I
But
mean,
it's
the
part
kind
of your
things we've
story.
seen there, yeah. But no, then my son, I lost my son when he was 4, and I lost myself then, and because he went to the state, and I went to jail, and our dad was trying to get him, but they were, because of his prior history with us in Child Protective
Right,
Services,
right.
they were fighting me with it because I was in jail. But literally, I got out, let's say October 19th that year, and 3 days later, we were in court and he had custody.
Hmm.
But he had him, but he didn't have him. I had him.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have never did that because I should have had him. But my dad was alcoholic and doing what he wanted to do at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, my dad had a tendency to get drunk and call me and threaten me because I had my kid. I got tired of getting threatened. And he told me he had something for me. I took that as he was going to give my kid back to the state. So I called the state and told him the truth and told him everything.
Your dad had something for you?
That's what he told
was
me.
Drunk, he would just threaten.
Threaten.
Like, oh, I
Okay.
got something.
Okay.
Because I had my kid. If I didn't bring my kid back to him, he was going to call the police on me.
That's how
Okay.
she took it.
Right. Right.
Well, no, that's what he told me.
Yeah, oh,
That's
there
what
you
he'd
go.
tell me. That's how he would threaten me. So I just got tired of getting threatened by it. So and then the state took my kid back, and I've lost myself for a decade. And
You lost yourself for 10 years. Okay.
and then when the last time Nicole got out of prison, I was staying over in Clearwater, right, in Bel Air. And she came to see me, and I didn't want her to stay, because I knew I wasn't, I don't want to bring her, I didn't want to bring her down.
Mhm.
But she's my sister, and she wouldn't leave. I felt, and it was a lot of years later.
So, how long have you been clean?
May 2nd, 2017.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It took me going to jail.
And
I went to jail I got another year, got a year in county.
okay.
Just because I only been to prison once. I've been in jail several times after that.
Okay.
I did a year in county, and I don't know. I was just, but I had a warrant before I got arrested for that charge. I had a warrant, and I had just spent 6 weeks in the hospital. I almost killed myself. I had pneumonia and a staph infection in 50% of
bad.
my lungs, not in just one
Wow.
spot. It was little spots in my entire lung and 50% of my right lung that they had to put not one but 2 chest tubes in me
We were
to
in a
drain the fluid
hallway
because it was so
with it.
thick it wouldn't come out. And if the second chest tube wouldn't have worked, they were going to have to crack my chest, is what the doctor told me. Thank God it worked. But literally, after you think something like that makes somebody stop. Yeah, no, literally, I got picked up that day from the hospital 6 weeks after being in there, got dropped back off over in Bel Air.
Okay.
I spent 2 weeks ripping and running. I was in the car with somebody, and she cut off an undercover cop. Now I was in an area. There was 4 of us in the car. It was 1 cop. I looked at him. I'm like, man, I know where I'm at. I can go. Then I also sat there and thought, I'm tired of running.
Hmm.
I was just tired.
Wait, did you call me and ask me for my social though?
Yeah.
So
Because I did. I gave him a fake name. I did. That's right. You're right. I
Right.
did.
We
I
used
called
each
her and
other's
asked her
names.
for her social and gave him her information. But what got me caught was my wallet was in the car door.
With her ID in it.
And the girl,
There's
because I
that.
didn't think my friend was going to give him permission to search her car. That's
Yeah.
why. So I took my purse out the car and left my wallet in the door. And then, yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
you have been clean for 6 years.
Yes, ma'am.
What did it for you? Like I hear
Honestly,
Michelle, I
that
hear
year after I got
Nicole.
out of jail,
Did you
have you ever
it?
heard of the next to
Well, I have heard of it. I don't
Okay,
know
well,
if we're allowed to be
oh,
saying
sorry,
names,
my
but
bad.
no,
Well, I
no.
worked
You
there. No, I worked there for a
okay?
year.
She worked
Okay.
And to be honest, that hotel is what kept me sober.
Because it was
Because
so
of
horrible.
seeing-
I'm not trying
Because
to.
of seeing all the,
That's
Yeah.
the drug
fentanyl.
addiction
Yeah.
and all the
We'll blur out
addicts.
the name because I don't
Right,
want them to
that's
sue
fine.
us.
Yeah,
But hey,
I
it's on
forgot about
US
that.
19, and
Yeah.
you guys, everybody knows what it is.
Yeah. And
Right.
I honestly
undercover guys
watching
know what
all
it
the girls ripping and running and seeing all the drug dealers. Oh, they used to hate me because I would sit out front and read my NA book and tell them they need this book in their life.
Good for you.
Yeah, I saved 3 different people's lives that were overdosing there.
Okay.
You know, it just
So you
having
just
to go
decided
through
you
that
were
and see
done.
all that reminded me of what I didn't miss having to go through and do,
Okay.
and
And
having
it was
to
right
worry
in your
about
face.
being.
It was right there.
Literally
You
living there.
worked
Yeah,
there. You
she
lived
told me
there.
because she used to live down the street and worked at the restaurant down the road, and she used to tell me couldn't understand how I
I
could,
don't know how you're doing it.
because it.
Wow.
I used to go there to get drugs.
Well, she was sober and looking at all of this chaos and saying, I don't want any part of that.
Because it was
Wow.
just, that's all it is. It's just crazy. It's not a life to want to live anymore.
Wow. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not living a life. You're just
So
going.
if I could, what I hear with you guys, Michelle, I would like you to tell me more about, and tell the listeners more about really what sustained you or who sustained you. What was a pivotal moment for you where you said,
Enough's enough.
enough is enough, I'm not going back?
Well, so I have 5 kids, and my oldest is going to be 22, and I have an 18-year-old, and I didn't raise them. And like I said, I always didn't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to do that to my kids.
Yeah.
Well, I had 2 daughters that I gave up for adoption at birth, and I have an amazing relationship with their mom still. They're 10 and 8. They know me as Tummy Mommy. I got pregnant with my last son, and I said to his dad, we're either going to do this or we're going to give him up because I cannot ruin another kid. Not that my kids are ruined, but I
No,
didn't
but I
just want to be an
understand what you're saying.
absent mom again.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided we were going to do this. So I was on methadone because I was using, so I went to methadone. And I was doing everything right for the first time. Finally, I'm doing it right. Had him during Hurricane Irma. And DCF came in there, and the way these people treated me was horrible.
Because of your history?
Because of my
Okay.
past. And we're going to take your kid. We're going to do this. I had a place. I was clean, other than methadone, but I was going to the clinic, so it's clean to them. You know, it was
Legal. It was legal,
legal.
right?
And they were just, it was bad. So I had to go through this whole case plan, whatever. I did it. I completed it all. His dad at the time was actually an ETC,
Okay.
you know.
Which is a safe housing program. Yes. That's okay.
And he, you know, we were doing it. We were finally doing it. And we got a place. We were, you know, just, and then we just started getting high again. It just, we never really tried to heal from anything, from any of our traumas. I didn't even realize that was a thing, you know. And I was on drugs for so long, and I had never overdosed. And then fentanyl came around. And in 2019, I overdosed 6 times. And I was just telling some moms at my son's volleyball, like, the thing is like, everybody thinks, well, how did you overdose 6 times and go right back to it? The thing is I didn't see me. I didn't see what y'all were seeing. I didn't feel it. To me, I was nodded out again. That's all it was to me. So
You
it
weren't
did-
attempting to
yeah,
overdose.
I wasn't
You were not
attempting. It
going,
just
oh, I
happened.
think I'll
No.
take my life right now.
Literally I would overdose on a rinse, which is nothing. That's how deadly this
But it's
stuff
fentanyl,
is.
right?
It's fentanyl. Like, I didn't know I was doing fentanyl. I thought I was doing heroin. I
Because
never
there's
went
no
and said,
honor
"I
among
wanna
drug
buy-" Right.
dealers. Yeah.
Never
there's
went and
that.
said I wanted it. It's just what I got, you know? So the last time I overdosed, I was at home, my son's dad's mom's house. But I guess I seized out. I'm not sure because I came to before the cops got there. She was pounding the door. When I opened the door, the cops were there, and my syringe was there, my spoon was there, and I went to jail for possession and paraphernalia and child neglect at the time. I bonded out. 2 days later, the child neglect got dropped, and I went into drug court for the first time after being arrested 39 times.
Wow, you were arrested 39 times. So for our listeners outside of Florida, drug court, I believe the Tampa Bay area is so blessed to have drug court. It is a therapeutic court room where if you have a drug addiction, you have an opportunity to get pulled into drug court. And get your felony charges either dropped or adjudicated withheld, which means you're not a convicted felon if you have not been convicted felon before. And then there's a lot of treatment. There's therapy, there's housing, there's residential. So that's what you entered into. You didn't have any control over that. I believe it's the state attorney just does that. Okay.
I mean, you can opt out, but I was like, okay, this
it's a chance.
I'm gonna get help for the first time.
Right.
Well, they gave me outpatient at first.
And outpatient for our listeners is not a locked down facility.
Right.
You can live outside either
your own
in some
home.
type of housing or your own home. Go to outpatient therapy. There's a lot of freedom, very little structure if you're not in a set program.
Correct.
Okay.
So at first I was doing everything right. The thing was my son was living at his aunt's in Pasco, and I had no friends that didn't have a record. That's all I've ever known, you know. So to get somebody to what is it called? Supervise my visits with him was next to impossible. So like,
Because you didn't have anybody that would pass the
nobody.
checklist.
When we had moved to Ohio.
Yeah, literally nobody. So it was like I kept making phone calls. Like my caseworker is supposed to do it. Like 6 months went by, and I'm literally like, I just want to see my kid, and it wasn't happening. Well, when I bonded out of jail on those charges before I got put on outpatient, it was the first time in my life my dad was gone, so I couldn't go to his house, and my best friend passed away from diabetes. So I literally had nowhere to go the first time in my life. First time. So it was scary.
Yeah.
But I found a place to go. I got a job right away. I can always get a job. I'm great at getting a job. I can't keep them.
Until now.
Until now.
Right.
I've been at my job for over 3 years.
Yeah.
But just I couldn't take it anymore. Nothing was going my way. And, you know, the messed up minds of us addicts are, I literally was like, I'm going to go get high and fail this drug test so I can go to jail. Who does that? Like, instead of going to the judge, Your Honor, I need structure. I need help.
So you kind of looked at jail as a way out.
Yeah.
Like
I
a
need
saving
to
grace.
get off the street.
So, okay, I just
Yes.
have to pause here on there's so many things I'm hearing. First of all, in the area of DCF, in the area of this stereotype of moms that lose their kids, and you didn't see them for 6 months, right? You didn't see your child for 6 months. You wanted to.
Tried and
tried. And I'm hoping that there's some DCF listeners out there. I'm hoping that there's judges out there listening and attorneys and state attorneys. Why? Because what you look and see on paper
That's what it is.
says, oh, she hasn't seen her kid. But in the
I want to just correct something. It's not DCF, it's CPS, because those are two different things.
CPS,
Yes.
the Child Protective Services.
Yeah,
Okay.
services
So,
and
and
DCF, yeah.
and there's a DCF case, correct?
Right.
Yeah, that's
So it
correct.
is.
That's
It's
the
all
CPS.
like right. Got it. So and thank you.
Yeah.
Because so many times you are judged by what is on this sheet when the reality is you are trying to work. You want to see your child. You have to do all of these checks in order to get there. And if you mess up any one of these checks, then you don't get there. But on paper, it's non-compliant and you don't care about your kid.
Yep. 100%.
And I'm hoping that we can blast some of these stereotypes.
The one thing I did do though was I kept a notebook of, I would call every day.
Yep, I remember.
Eckerd. I would
Okay.
call every day, and I would write the name. I left a message. It would always say such and such. If you don't get a hold of me, call my supervisor in
Go
2
down the
days.
chain.
Down the chain, up the chain, up the chain, till I got up the chain.
Okay.
Literally, I got as high as you could go.
Good point. So you're
And-
telling anybody with open case plans,
Yes. Go
call
up that
every day.
chain, keep
Call
notes,
every day.
Keep
Call every
notes.
day.
Write
Okay.
what you said. Write the name that was on the answer machine, the time and the date. I did it all, and I took it into the judge.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so I had a leg to stand on. The judge was like, what is going on here?
Okay.
So I didn't get a non-compliant because it wasn't me, it was them.
Okay. So very good. Very
Yes.
good point. And I want to switch over to the other point
Mhm.
is that is it a fair statement that jail does and can save your life?
Absolutely.
Because there's
Absolutely.
what I am seeing in, I don't know, in this era post COVID, I always have to say post COVID because pre COVID, there was one way of living.
Mhm.
And I'm just saying post COVID, and if I get knocked for that, that's all right.
It is
I'm
what it is.
sharing what I've been seeing.
Exactly.
And the post COVID era is, nobody wants to have anybody with addiction incarcerated. That's not the end goal. Mass incarceration is absolutely not the end goal,
Right.
and that is not on the agenda of definitely drug court. That is not on their
Right, at
agenda.
all.
And most courtrooms, I think, today are going, all right, what's the insanity here of mass incarceration with addiction? However, I still maintain that the judicial arm is vitally important, because if you do not have the judicial arm, along with the addiction is so strong, is it not?
Yeah.
That if you don't have this judicial arm saying, okay, here are your choices. And I've talked to so many people in the past few months that said, I didn't want to go to jail, but jail saved my life. Why? Because they got detoxed.
It's so hard to detox off of drugs.
Right. And there's a medical wing. And yeah, we can talk about the need for huge detox centers
Yes.
that don't have to be inside
Right.
the county jails.
Some of
So,
us need to be locked down and not be able to get. That's the
Point
problem,
taken.
Is we can get to 1 day, 2 day, but that devil inside of you
Yeah.
is telling you that day 3 is the worst. You go every time on day 3. It's the
Okay.
worst. And not being locked down in the jail and can't go, it literally is like the best thing. It's horrible.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Because when you get through it,
There's a light.
and you're thinking clearly, and you're still locked up, and you're going, this is not who I am.
Right.
This is not what I want to be. And enter in something like drug court, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I
Take it
got in
from
there.
there.
So I went into jail, did 45 days, and then I got to go into an amazing program that my thing was is I never had structure. We never, none of us had structure.
Yeah, do whatever we want whenever we want.
So that was the one thing that I've always been missing. Can get a job, can get a place to live, but the structure, I didn't have it.
And
I
you're
didn't even know
talking
what it
about
was.
Empowered to Change,
Yes,
right?
Empowered
Okay.
to Change.
I just
went
want to make
into
sure.
Empowered to Change.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because like, well, we'll get there. So I get into this program, and I got there October 26, 2019. October 31st, 2019, my son's father overdosed twice in 1 day.
Hmm.
Behind the wheel, he went to the hospital. They drew his blood. They let him go home. And then he went and overdosed again that night. He didn't pass away. But it was the first time in my life I was like, okay, Michelle, you've got to cut ties. I loved him.
Yeah.
He was an amazing man, great father. But I had to figure out who I was. I've never known who Michelle Kramer was.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know. So I was like, this is the first time, like, I get to sit down and look at myself, which isn't like the best thing to do, but we got to do it at some point,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I had outpatient classes. I was in the program, and, you know, I had to go to meetings 4 times a week. But honestly, myself, I went almost every single day, sometimes twice, because the thing about me is when I got bored,
Right.
that was my problem. So I got a job full time. I was going to outpatient classes. I was doing NA, and it, you know,
You had a curfew.
I had a
There was structure.
curfew.
You were busy.
I was so I was for the first 2 months. I don't really remember because I was like a wah 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 walking like
Busy.
through the motions. Like I would get home and out like a light, you know. And then, you know, I phased up, and then I became a house leader assistant. You know, it's nothing special really, but it was, for me, it was getting to help others that were first walking in the door and wanting to run.
And did you recognize really what a leader you are?
Had no idea.
For real.
Had no idea. When I got called into the office to move into this role, honestly, I thought I was in trouble for something, which I was like, I don't know what I did. I'm literally all day going through my head. What did I do wrong? I'm going to go to jail. I don't know what I did. But, can I say her name?
Yes.
Tafoya called me in the office, and I love Tafoya.
She's wonderful.
She is amazing.
She is.
She was like, who do you think should be house leader assistant? So I'm like naming the names of the girls that have been there way longer than me. She's like, why didn't you put yourself on the list? I was like, I just went into phase 2 one day ago, and you can't be a house leader assistant till you're in phase 2. So I was like, me? No. I can't. But all the girls will be mad at me because they've been here, you know. But then I was like, you know what? I'll do it. At first, the first month I was kind of feeling like I was kind of still new there. But then I was like, you know what? I've been doing this longer than a lot of these girls walking in here.
Yeah.
While I don't have much of a foundation right now because I'm newly clean too, I was learning, but I knew more than them walking in the door.
Would you say that being an example or a leader helped you
It
in
really
your
did.
sobriety?
It did.
You know, and everybody is different, but to see people looking up to you and to following your lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nice. Like I wasn't a house leader that was, you know,
Yeah.
do this, do that, or I'm going to give you an essay, do this, do that type stuff. I literally was like, just, if you need anything, come to me. Like, just don't drink, do drugs. Call me if you're there, just, and you need somebody. So I graduated that program, ETC, June 10th, 2020. My son's case plan, we closed it out June 20th, 2020. Dad got full custody only because I was still in a halfway house, but we were sharing. You know, I would go over there, do overnights.
Right.
But I stayed at ETC for an extra 3 months to save money to get my own place. October 1st, 2020, me and my then boyfriend, now fiance, moved into our first apartment. I cried that day. It was the first time that I didn't have probation or a program, and the gas station was right there. I was like, I want to drink, but I don't want to drink, but I do want to drink, but I can't drink.
But you had no account.
No
Nobody.
accountability.
You weren't on probation.
Nothing.
You were free and clear.
Right. And drinking is not illegal.
Right.
It is for Michelle Kramer.
Right.
Because drinking eventually puts a needle in my arm.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I can't do anything. I can't.
Yeah.
I cannot and will not. I just can't. I went to a meeting that day because I was losing my mind. But then a couple months later, I reached out to you, said I need a church. You know, it was COVID and nobody was having no churches, but went to this amazing church and still there, got baptized that year. I volunteered for ETC for a while after because, again, I didn't want to be bored. But I got my license after 13 years, had my own place.
Still working at the same job.
Still same job. You know, an SC
An
there,
advanced.
which is a shift leader. But in 2021, my son's father overdosed and died.
Yeah.
And that was really hard. because 2 days after he passed away, I dropped my son off at his mom's, and because I had to work a double, and it was the first time I ever had a motherly instinct, which is crazy. I have 5 kids, but it is what it is. I
It
just
is.
didn't have one, and I knew something was wrong, so I left work, and grandma and aunt called DCF, and like I told, because so much was going on, I forgot dad had full custody
Hmm.
because I didn't have a place.
Now, did he pass away from fentanyl?
He passed away from fentanyl, but on his death certificate says COVID because he got COVID in the county jail. He did 20 days on that overdose that he was behind the wheel. It took so long because of COVID for him to go in. He got 30 days, did 20 on it, and overdosed the night he got out.
But his death certificate
Says
says
COVID,
COVID.
but it was fentanyl.
Okay.
But so when I went, they wouldn't answer the door. So as soon as I pulled out, CPI called me.
And you were
And
back
again, these people, because of what my paper says,
in it. Okay.
this lady was so nasty and mean to me. She was like, you have 5 kids and you don't have any of them. You overdosed in front of your, like literally just nasty, vile
Just
things.
bring it all back, but you
Yeah,
had not.
but
you had not relapsed.
I hadn't
You were
relapsed.
you
I
were
had the
doing
same
amazing.
job, and I basically said, F you.
Hmm.
I don't care if I have 50 kids. I did the case plan for this one, and I hung up on her. And then the sister accused me of being on drugs, abuse, and my house was filthy. I have OCD. My
So
house is
you were
furthest
in.
from real.
You were at an uphill battle
Yeah,
again.
Again.
And what was your sustaining strength? What was your rock through all of this?
God.
Because you lost the person you loved,
I did.
and your son was dealing without his dad.
Yep. Which was hard. It still is hard on days when he asks about him.
So this girl, this woman, Michelle, who was in jail and introduced to God first and saying that they're fake, God was your rock
listen,
and is your rock.
I
don't want to
had-
put words in
No,
your mouth.
100%. I cried when he passed away. I went to anger when they took my kid. Thank God their door was locked.
Yeah.
They tried to go in.
Yeah.
But then when that lady said that to me, I was like, you know what? I'm not stooping to their level. I know what I know. I know I'm clean.
The truth, right?
I know my kid isn't abused, and I know my house is clean. So I did not let it get to me like the old Michelle would. I literally just said, God, this is yours. And I need you just to guide me through this. And the crazy part, this sister who had him, who testified on the stand the day before I got him back, who statute this number, blah, blah, blah. You have every right to terminate her rights. We text and talk all the time. My son goes to her house
That's one of them.
because I forgave her, because God was just, he's so good, and it's about my son,
Mm-hmm.
whether I like her or not. Not that I dislike her. Like, the addict to me disliked her because she didn't like me because I was using, that's the sick part.
Sure.
But like, everybody is like, how are you even talking to her and being friends? Because I don't have a reason to hate nobody. It's not, I don't want to hate nobody. It's not my heart. Like, God has changed my heart so much. So I'm night and day from the mean, nasty person I used to be to.
So
It's
what
not
was
worth
that
it.
moment? What was that moment that you realized that you have been forgiven?
Ah.
And then because you've been forgiven, it's like, don't you find it easier just
So
to
easy.
forgive?
So easy.
When was that for you?
February 14th, 2020.
Okay.
Was it?
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. We actually got baptized together.
Really?
Yeah.
And my son and my
And
husband.
like
and her
my
fiance.
fiance, her husband, her son, we all got baptized on the same day. I remember when I came up from that water, they tried to take me in a back room to pray with me, but the Holy Spirit was in me so much. Those people that I was judging in prison, I was that person. I was jumping. I couldn't stop jumping and
so good.
singing and just like this, oh, the most beautiful feeling
It's so
ever.
good.
The peace of God is so beautiful and amazing.
It is
So good.
so
You know,
good.
and it's just, I want to make this loud and clear. Like, this is the first time, again, that we've all been clean and sober. The one thing that my dad, before he passed away, and he was like, all I want from you girls is to get clean and sober. And, like, we just had Christmas at my house, you know, less than a month ago. And it was, like, the first time
You were
everybody
all
in my
sober.
house. I had some addicts that were 3 days clean, 4 days clean, a week clean, you know, her almost a year. Like, so many, because there was people that just didn't have anywhere to go, and I was like, come to my house, clean and sober, no drugs, no drinking, and it was awesome. It was fun.
That is
it was so
amazing.
good. It was so good.
That is
Like,
so good.
you don't have to be what the paper says you are, black and white. You don't have to be. You can change. If us three
Mm-hmm.
can do it, literally, like running the streets, prostituting, like selling drugs, you know, stripping in strip clubs, all of it. We did it all.
Mm-hmm.
And she has 2 kids, full custody, got my kid, full custody. Her kids are older, but her and her husband, and I didn't think this was scary.
Yeah.
Like, this, she went to jail, and I paid for her to go into a halfway house, and, you know, her husband was still actively using. Like, we were scared. Like, they're not going to do it together. They can't. But she had faith. They both believe in God, and she said, God is going to get us through this. And I didn't believe it at first
Awesome.
because I was weary of the husband, but he's clean and sober. He was at my house too on Christmas, you know, and like, she's coming up on a year, and we all 3 work together too, which is
That's so good.
another crazy thing.
That
And
is
we
so
don't kill each
good.
other. No, we actually laugh and have a great time. And
But-
it's just crazy.
And you know, that is the hope that my prayer for this session
Yeah.
is that people will hear this. They might be in the middle of it. They might be going, I'm still on probation, or I'm still working a case plan, or, you know, maybe they've lost a loved one, but they can hear your story
Yeah.
and know that if they just
Stick with it.
stick with it, stay sober, reach out, get help,
Oh.
get through the next day, get through the hour, and know that there's light on the other side.
Yeah. Every time I pick up, so in recovery, you get key change, you know, and when you got multiple years, you get a black one. you
Okay.
know, multiple years. And every time I pick up a key tag, they always ask you, how'd you do it? How you stay clean another year? And the one thing I say to people is pick up the phone.
Mm,
You have to, it weighs 1,000 pounds,
yeah.
but you have to pick it up.
So I would like to have you guys back at another time,
Yes.
even you and your husband and you, and just to kind of go deeper into the
Definitely.
things that you are saying, with that you are reaching out for help. And I could just talk to you guys for hours. I'm serious. But I want to thank you for your transparency. I want to thank you. It takes a lot of courage just to come on here.
Thank you.
You guys are amazing.
Appreciate it.
I'm
Really hope
inspired. Oh
we
my
can
goodness.
help.
At least
If
one
it's
person.
just one person,
That's all that
praise God.
matters.
That's
all that
right.
matters.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Until next time, guys, Bullseye Nuclear, Michelle Snyder. We'll see you again.
Bye.
To do.
I mean,
But-
if you don't, it's a, I mean, a little,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, well.
Coming soon at the Central Park Performing Arts Center in Largo, Florida. The first annual Soulwin Women's Conference. Hear 20 plus inspiring speakers that will transform you, shift you into your divine path. Mark your calendars, ladies. June 21st to the 23rd. 3 full days of fellowship, worship, encouragement, and supporting local female business owners.
When your soul prospers, so will your health, your finances, and your relationships.
I need a lot of time trying to figure it out.
You're stronger than you think.
God wants us to walk in freedom. He wants us to understand the blessing.
It's time to be healed in your soul, know your true worth, and be all you were beautifully and wonderfully made to be. Purchase your tickets now for this life-changing event at www.soulwinconference.com.